Hello there, I'm Big Alias, and I'm here to report a rare gaming W, a rare Xbox W. I can't believe it. I don't know what to say. I'm happy about what's happening with Xbox right now. So much so that yes, I busted out the mic. Not even mic, phone. We're going to talk about it. It's very exciting. Believe it or not, they've listened. Listen! Do you remember that shit? MSN, 8 p.m., poking your crotch. Crush, in fact. I wouldn't poke my crotch. You can get arrested for that. Poking your crotch, 8 p.m. You got some computer time on MSN, and some emoji pops. Listen! Yeah, none of what I'm saying has anything to do with gaming or makes sense. The Game Pass, it's got cheaper. And I'm kind of trying to get over that fact. It's shocking. I was actually going to make a video where I was going to talk about gaming and the price hikes and all of these issues. And I guess I can't really do that. Well, I could delay it or just sort of redo it in a different way because I don't think anyone saw this coming. This is a bit of a shock. And I don't know if it's Asher Sharma, the new CEO or head of Xbox. We've talked about this previously, who took over from Phil Spencer. I don't know if it's her decision or whether it's like a Microsoft thing that they've told her how to do. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's her. I really don't know how many of those decisions are made by, Xbox versus Microsoft or even Asher Sharma versus Microsoft etc. But I just think that this is a fantastic decision. So basically what's happened is the price of Game Pass Ultimate has reduced by, from what I can tell, sort of universally around about £6. So it's gone from $30 to $22.99, $23. And in the UK, it's gone from what I think was £23 to £17, $22.99 to $16.99. Which is good. It's a good reduction. And basically the way that they've paid for that is by making it so that you have to wait a year for new Call of Duty releases. And I think this is just a fantastic decision, an absolutely brilliant decision. Not just because they're lowering the price, but because I think they're doing it in a tremendously smart way. I think it's a very clever way. Clearly, I think... Look, let's just say it how it is. I think that maybe Microsoft aren't too happy with the decision to buy Activision. It hasn't really panned out the way that they wanted it to. And I think, personally speaking, I don't think there's any way it could have led to a sizable number of Game Pass subscriptions that would then compensate for the, $48 billion that they spent on the damn company, on Activision, effectively Call of Duty. I just don't think that, I don't think that could have made up for it, particularly when they spent $48 billion. I want to hammer that point home. $48 billion on this company, only to then up the price of Game Pass. So to sort of invalidate all of the, additions that they would have provided. The idea is you get more Game Pass subscriptions because for the fee that you pay, we've actually added Call of Duty, which means that you should be more sort of excited to pay for this Game Pass subscription, but instead we just added the price of Call of Duty to the price of your Game Pass subscription, and it's gone up now. So you're not getting it for free. It's not more tantalizing, and I don't understand how they thought that could have sort of panned out as a good thing. So I'm assuming this is the only way it could have been that they bought Call of Duty, and it didn't give them the Game Pass Ultimate sort of uptick that they expected. As a matter of fact, I'd imagine it actually went down after the price hike. So they just sort of went, well, look, clearly Call of Duty isn't having the effect that we thought it would. If we know that people are going to buy Call of Duty. This is the genius behind it. This is the great, honestly, genuinely great decision maker behind it. And I hope it is Asher Sharma. I hope that she's made this brilliant decision in saying, well, look, Call of Duty is going to sell. Call of Duty will always sell. It has a history of selling. So we'll just, say, for example, it sells 10 million copies, which I think Call of Duty does more than 10 mil. But let's say 10 million, what they're selling for, £70 at the moment. We're looking at $700 million, £700 million off of this game, and it certainly doesn't cost $700 million to make. Look at that shit. So you make the money off of that, you make a neat net profit, and that makes up for the the price that you paid for the studio essentially over a few years, and you do get some increased Game Pass subscriptions, and then you get that increase in Game Pass subscriptions, Game Pass Ultimate subscriptions, based off the fact that it's now reduced. So you're making more money off of that as well. With that £6 reduction, I think a lot of people are going to enter in, and it's around about so I'm currently paying because I had Ultimate for years, and I went down to Premium after they upped it to a ridiculous price. I wasn't going to pay that, so now that I pay $10.99. If I go up to Ultimate, it's an extra £6. Now that's £6. Say for example they have like, I don't know, 5 million subscribers. We're looking at £300 million. No, we're looking at about £30 million per month. So £30 million per month in Game Pass subscriptions. Now, I'm not saying that 5 million people are going to increase to an Ultimate subscription, but again, we're just like floating figures here. It is an increase on top of the fact that they will also make money off of selling Call of Duty rather than just giving it away as part of Game Pass, because clearly it hasn't had the effect that they wanted it to. So I think it's a genius move. It's a genius play. And in multiple ways. I think firstly, it's Asher Sharma saying, look, I'm here, I'm making new decisions, and I'm putting the gamer first. A great first move. Although you tend to find that with new CEOs, they make a couple of ground rules that do put sort of the consumer first. And so I'm not overly surprised that this has happened when it's happened. I'm surprised it's happened, but the timing, does seem right to me. But yeah, as Asher Sharma saying, like, look, I'm doing this and I'm putting the consumer first. Secondly, it says, and they would disagree if I said this in the presence of like an Xbox CEO, an Xbox higher up, but the fact is they're kind of saying, yeah, Call of Duty isn't the be all and end all for us either, and Call of Duty has a horrible reputation right now, so sort of agreeing with like the people and going, yeah, Call of Duty, we don't actually need it, is a bit of a power play, and they know that it doesn't matter what they say, people are still going to buy it anyway. So they can, side with the gamer and say, yeah, we don't care about Call of Duty either, and get away with it. And I think they know that. So that's a great play too. And of course, like I said, the additional money that they're going to make off of the increase in subscriptions is great. And finally, some good news from a gaming company at a time where, gaming news is so dire and so bad. Everything is about price increases and, things not being as good as they were, and games being too bloated, too long, too obtuse. And finally, it's like, oh, here's a bit of good news. And the first bit of good news is coming out of Microsoft, particularly during the AI bubble. But the first bit of good news is coming out of Microsoft. Actually, we're reducing prices. And finally, yes, it shows that actually right now we are willing to reduce prices. And whether they do or not going forward, that is a great message to send people, particularly going into this new era of gaming that we're going to be heading into, where everything is like cloud streamed, or you buy a PC, and all this stuff, which I'm not excited for. But it's a good step forward to say, actually, we are willing to reduce things, and we're willing to listen to people. So whether it's sincere or not, and we'll see about that, and whether it sticks or not, frankly, because they could just stop it anytime they wanted to. This is a very clever move. I think it's one of the smartest moves they've made in the past, 10 or so years. It is a very, very calculated, well-calculated, and brilliant move, to the point where I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of this was sort of calculated across the past few years, to sort of like a classic Coke style thing. Like, actually, we upped it. Oh, now we're lowering it. We're willing to do so. I wouldn't be overly shocked if that was the case, but I also don't really mind. Will I be going back to Ultimate from Premium? There's a chance. I might do. It's only an extra £6. You do get a lot more. You get High on Life 2. The new Forza game's coming out soon. I was, to be honest, going to upgrade for the new Halo remaster anyway, because Halo, and I'm obsessed with Halo. So yeah, I might. It's not a lot. I'd be willing to throw an extra few quid in, just, for Ultimate. So they got me there. They got me hook, line, sinker, and I imagine they got a lot of other people too. It's a great move. It looks great. It is great, and I think it was very well executed. So for once, I get to say this: huge gaming W, huge Xbox W. What the hell? What?
The PlayStation is only $149, and you can also get leading titles.